Hi, everybody. We have a wonderful friend as well as a lady who has become a grandmother recently. So we decided we'd have her saying yes to life, that she's actually obviously said yes at one point in her life to being a grandmother. And she is a conscious grandmother. So we were chatting beforehand and we decided how inspiring it would be if we had a grandmother who is an aware, conscious lady who could talk to us about how she envisages herself being a conscious, inspiring grandmother. Her name is Janet Miller, and we're really excited to have her with us because, as I say, we do know her personally. We've travelled to parts of the world together, and she's lived in Australia, so she understands our lingo, which is really, really handy. So normally Ray reads the bio, but I've been given the...
It's more a grandmothery thing. It's more
as she puts her glasses on. So this wonderful friend and lady is Janet Miller, the divine light activator, and she is a conscious grandmother. As you've probably seen by the photo, it's a beautiful photo of her and her grandson Nathan. Janet is a global energy healer, a Reiki master, transformational healer, reconnective healing practitioner, sound healer, nurse, certified dream coach, and trained true purpose coach. Janet is dedicated to raising the vibration of the planet and elevating the consciousness of the people she has the privilege to reach. In early 2019, she launched her own show, Our Own Divine Light, which features experts from all over the world sharing knowledge and advice, as well as various avenues to release what's blocking you from living your life and what it means to you. You can actually find her season 1 and subscribe. We'll put that on one of her links for you so you can go there. Now, Janet's mission is to bring awareness to people that self-love is the gateway to their true potential and connects them to their inner essence, God light, creating a natural flow of abundance, rising and uniting the planetary consciousness and creating the life and world we have been waiting for. Her newest endeavour into the world of service is as a conscious grandmother to Nathan James. Her first grandchild, who's come into the world, are far accelerated in her own world that Janet grew up in. So, excuse me, we're going to listen to Janet as she is an inspiration as a grandmother. Thank you, Janet.
Thank you so much, Vicki and Ray. It's so wonderful to be here. It's an honor. It's an honor to be asked to speak. And this is a new adventure for me to be a conscious grandmother. And, you know, to be conscious is such a blessing in itself. And then to now be a conscious grandmother and to be able to pass that on to my grandson. And, you know, we were introduced to each other in a dream. He came to me in a dream. It was so spectacular. I thought I had, you know, just was at like a store one day around Christmas time last year. And I just haphazardly grabbed a pink hat saying, oh, I'm staring at pink. Maybe this baby's going to be pink, you know, because my daughter-in-law would not tell us. It's my son's first. And my daughter-in-law said, we're not going to know the sex of the baby. We're not going to know anything. We're not going to tell you the names. We don't want to know. We're not letting you know. Of course, my son didn't want to know, but my daughter-in-law did not. So she just said, nope, we're going to have it as a surprise. So I said to my husband, let me just quick show you what I think is my guess for the baby. And he goes, oh, no, wait, I'm going to write it down too. So he writes down his guess, and I pull out my hat, and he goes, I said girl too. And we both said girl. I don't know why, because, you know, my daughter-in-law is a sister. So I thought she really loves women. She's always around a lot of women, and she has a core of aunts, and they're a wonderfully close family. And her mother has 3 sisters and a brother, but, you know, it's a lot of women, a lot of feminine energy. So I kept, she's going to have this female in her life. I think maybe that's what's supposed to happen. And then about, I don't know, 3 months before the baby was born, I had this dream. She was walking around with this little bundle, and all of a sudden She takes the blanket down and he turns to me and he goes, I am a boy. And I went, whoa, he's a boy. And I knew that was the truth because I've had dreams like that before. And I totally knew it was the truth. So I told my husband, I said, I need to have proof that I got the vision and it's the truth vision that this is going to be a boy. And I told my daughter, I couldn't tell my daughter-in-law or my son because I wasn't allowed, and he was a boy. And I was so excited that he came and introduced himself to me like that. And, it's just been, just so he's going to be 6 weeks old tomorrow actually. And Nathan James, and you've seen the picture of him. I could share if you want me to. I'll show you my son and his. Oh, here they are. Here's this one. This is a cute picture. I don't know if you can see it, but this is them, the three of them.
Yeah.
There's Nathan.
That's nice.
And I know, and they took a couple of family photos, and he's just the sweetest baby. So, I've had the pleasure of being with him at least 3 times now, and they don't live close, but we travel to see him about 3 hours away. So, I mean, it's not terrible. It's all doable. And, so, I've been reading about what a conscious grandmother is. So I did find a website. It was really interesting that there was one by a woman named Yeshi that created this, I don't know, around 2012, just when everything was breaking up and the big shift was happening. And she wrote, I love this, the Hopi prophecy is when the grandmothers speak, the earth will heal. And because of the grandmothers, the 13 Native American grandmothers, philosophy. And she decided to provide, she said, I need to bring in grandmothering because the baby boomers of our generation, which is a lot of us, it's a huge generation that are turning into grandmothers. And they're active people. We're all so active. I mean, I know you two, you travel like crazy like I do. We've met many tours together. We've done so many global healing tours together. I mean, that's what we do. You're global healers as well. We've done these trips and, we're changing the planetary energy. I mean, we're doing things on a level that, our family, our parents could never even imagined. It wasn't time yet. They weren't ready for this frequency. They weren't ready for what the earth is, they were preparing it, but we were the ones who took it the next step. And so now with us being the grandmother ages, we can bring this to our grandchildren and just start making it start at the very beginning where, they're talking about the crystals and the indigos coming in that are all the veils are thinning between those children and they come in more awake every year. Yes. And so the grandmothers, they talk about 3 things that this is their, by conscious, what do they mean? They mean we are aware, and aware means that the earth and the people are calling out for healing, and awake, which is to being as fully present here and now as possible, which is all about what it is right now. And we have to be present is so important because the present is our gift. It's our time. It's to be in the moment and enjoying everything that's going on. And then deliberate, it's in cultivating our intention to guide and clear and be a powerful, guide for our children, which I think is just so beautiful. And that to me is just what I want to be as a grandmother. I really do. What were you going to say, Vicki?
I love the word deliberate. I'd never thought about that as a description for consciousness. Deliberately doing. Or actually deliberately being than the doing. Yes.
Yeah, to deliberately be a conscious grandmother. I mean, and it's just so this woman has created like this amazing movement of grandmothers. And she said, because every generation, every next 7 generations, we change, we shift and we change. And that's when things, chains are broken. I know for me, I've broken the chains of my family's female ancestry because I did something called family constellation work. I don't know if you ever heard of it. And it's something where you go in a group and nobody knows you. You don't really know each other necessarily, but you can go with friends. And you can create an intention. Now, I did it as a silent intention. You can say it out loud or you can say it silently. And the group doesn't even know, but because of people just tuning in to their intuitive self, they started to tune in. And my intention was to know why my mother and I did not get along. What was going on? Why is it so hard for us to get along? because it was very difficult. And everybody started getting in ideas. They were getting hits on what was going on, what was I doing, and they would tell me to step forward. You know, do you take a step forward with your mom? And I took a step forward, and then I took a step back because she didn't want me to approach her because I had to pretend she was right there. I mean, this was done a long time ago, so I can't remember all the exact steps of it. But at one point, she literally turned her back on me. And that just showed she wasn't willing and wasn't open to healing with me. And I had to accept it. I just had to accept it. And I knew, but they did say, because of my willingness to step in there to break these chains, the feminine, you know, chains that are holding us back of not being good enough or, you know, worthy enough or valuable enough or seen or visible, you know, I was breaking them just because I was doing that work. And so my own grandmother, my mother's mother, who was a powerful grandmother to me, she was my babci. She's a Polish grandmother. I have a Polish heritage. And she insisted on being called babci. And when she was born, she lived in Poland. And she grew up, I guess, in a fairly big family. But, you know, she left home at 15 because she wasn't getting along with her dad. So she moved out and went to Odessa, White Russia, they called it. And she worked for a family, cleaning house. And she saved all her money up at the age of 19. She came over to the United States and started a whole new life, you know? And she was my inspiration because at 19, I moved out of my house. And it was just interesting how I never knew those two ages were the same ages. I realized it recently. I did the same thing as my babci. And her real name is Magdalena, which to me is so powerful because I'm in a group called Magdalene Circle. I've been in that for 10 years. And so I am totally connected to Jeshua and Magdalene being the spiritual husband and wife that has, you know, here to raise the consciousness. And so my grandmother always was very strong. She was a very silent, very quiet woman, very humble. And she was tiny, not like I'm tall. She's tiny. My mother was tiny too, believe it or not. But my dad had a tall side to his family, so I got that side. And she was always there. She was solid as a rock. She spoke sort of broken English, and she worked her whole life. And her husband was an alcoholic, so she was the breadwinner. She was cleaning movie theaters. That's what she did because she didn't have any real education because she left home so young. And but she was always there for me. And I know she was the psychic link in my family because she told me as she was older, when I was just married to my husband, I was in my 20s, she told me, you know, Grandpa comes to see me and sits on the edge of the bed and talks to me at night. And I went, whoa, that was new. I was like totally blown away because I wasn't into this work at 24 years old, even though I was interested in things and I was aware and awake. And I was so shocked when she said that. And I'm like, really, babci? I totally believed her because, you know, she wouldn't make that up. Wow. Who would make that up? You know, nobody would make that up. So I knew my babci had a real link, a psychic link. And so I think I'm lucky I've gotten it passed to me. And so with my grandson, I know this is so important. I want to be there for him, like she was there for me. I mean, I would go and stay with her, but she was always the rock in the family. My family was pretty chaotic growing up.
Like a lot of families.
What is that?
Like a lot of families. And that's
we've all had our stuff. We've all had it. And I grew up with my dad being alcoholic. So, and then of course I took it on myself when I was young, and I've been 26 years sober. So, you know, I broke that chain too. And actually my brother did too. I shouldn't break his anonymity. Oops. Anyway, he's okay now. He knows all about it. We know each other well. Anyway, yeah. So we, you know, she was a powerful force in the family. She was always solid as a rock. And so for me for my grandson, I know that it's so important to teach him certain things and to be present. And so I've had some people that we both have our shows, and I have a friend who's written child meditations. And this is the most beautiful thing. It's called In My Heart Meditations. and her name is Gita Winter, and she's out of Norway. Is that right? No, she's out of Denmark. Excuse me, she's out of Denmark, Copenhagen. And it's the most beautiful thing where she literally starts making a connection for parents and grandparents to change their life with the child, because children have a lot of trouble going to bed and falling asleep. And I know my little grandson, he's pretty good. He's doing pretty well. He has been only waking up twice at night, and he's, falling asleep again. So they're very lucky. I think he's a good baby, but a lot of kids don't. My son was not a good sleeper. So I wish I had this book then, but it teaches children how to, and it also teaches parents how to stop their day, get in your heart, and to, create a loving journey with your child from the very beginning. And so she had 2 daughters, and this is how she started. And she says, we get so much stimuli as a modern parent or grandparent that, we get more in one day than we did an entire year as our grandparents did, which I thought is amazing. That was quite a statistic to get. And she says, we cannot stop the stimuli on our children. Our children are so overstimulated with TV and video and Facebook and phones and, all this going on. And even the little kids, they get those little toys really quickly. And I really don't want to do that to my grandson. But I of course, I have no charge over that. When he's with me, it's going to be a different world. But when he's with my son and his wife, I don't know what they'll do. So far, so good. They have a dog, which is wonderful. And he was introduced to the dog immediately. In fact, she did a beautiful thing, my daughter-in-law, that she took a piece of his clothing to the hospital, gave it to her sister who was watching the dog, and had him smell the baby's clothes, so he was familiar with the scent. And he's only 1-year-old dog, so he's still young himself. So when the baby came, he went right up to him and gave him a kiss right in the cheek. It's the most beautiful thing. And so he's a beautiful dog with his charge now. He literally just gets right beside that stroller and walks right with them along the walkway when they're walking. He already knows his position, and they didn't have to do anything. He just took his position right beside the child, which is so beautiful to see.
Well, he's probably been with the child before.
Yeah, that's very likely. That's a very good thought.
He's been with the child before, so he.
I love that. Oh, that's beautiful.
The carer of that child.
Ah,
yeah,
so great. Yeah, so great. That makes sense. That really does. So when she brings in the child meditations and talking about how it literally helps the parent themselves as well. Because when we come home, or the grandparent, we're all so busy. How do we slow our life down? How do we stop? So she even says, stop. And I love this. This is great information. Stop and really get yourself into a quiet mode before you even go in the room with the child. Stop and really center yourself, and then walk in the room and sit down and just start reading the meditation. And the questions are beautiful. And, you talk about love, and you have the kids become more conscious of love, and that how you can turn up love in your life. I mean, how beautiful is that? I mean, and when you get that so young, I mean, these are the things that you can learn as a grandparent and as a parent, a new parent. So, of course, I've given this book to my son and his daughter and his wife. And when you have a new baby, it's hard to turn it down. They haven't quite started with this yet, but I'm going to start with it because I haven't been there long enough yet to do it. And it's still so new that this is the next step, is to start reading this to Nathan, because he's a very easy baby to get to sleep. But, it's for the parents. Maybe they'll start feeling the energy. If I do it in front of them, they will be ready to start doing it themselves, and they're great with them. I have to say, they really are. They're great. My son was changing diapers immediately, which I was so impressed and so happy. And he was helping his wife, do the pump and, give her the pump, get her ready for all of that. And my daughter-in-law, she's very patient. She's very attentive to the baby, very loving. So, this is a start, how we can teach our children that they can love themselves, which is what we're finally figuring out, as adults. I mean, we were always trained not to be selfish or conceited or self-centered, you know, which is not what this is all about. It's all about self-love.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's my premise, which you read in my mission, is for us to all find self-love, because, you know, I didn't love myself either growing up. I really didn't, because, you know, you grow up with your alcoholic family and you're like, what did I do wrong? Why is this happening? You know? And so you think there's something wrong with you as well. And then you take it out on yourself. I mean, and literally you're abusing yourself through alcohol in whatever way you find it. You could be shopping, you could be eating, you could be, you know, taking drugs. I mean, you could be having too much sex. I mean, you never know what you're going to be doing. But that was my route. And finally, when I got sober, that led me on my road to spirituality. And so for children, you know, we can start so young now because we're awake enough to give this to them. And so these are two things I'm really excited about, is meditation and being able to be so present with my grandson. And, you know, like we were talking earlier, how we've got so much more wisdom now. We've lived life. We know what we did with our own kids. You know, it wasn't perfect. You can't, because you're learning as you go.
Yeah.
There is no books on parenting. You can give all the books in the world, but you can take bits and pieces and they will work to a point. But, you know, every child's an individual, and a parent, you know, the stress in our modern world, as we've seen, is one day it's equal to what our grandparents had in a year. I mean, that's insane when you think about it. But the stimuli is everywhere. It's everywhere. And it's just nonstop. And I think it's a distraction in so many ways. Yeah.
A doctor's just retired in Melbourne. He's been bringing babies in for 41 years, and he does talks with women with their and the husbands and mums and dads. And he said, put the toys away. Take the child, hug the child, touch the child, talk to the child. He said, if you want a child that is aware, and he used about going to uni and education and being in that field, but actually the touching, the eye contact, the you know,
absolutely,
as you said, I'm present with you. And the other thing with the grandmother, you brought in with the Hopi Indians, that if we go back into all our cultures, the grandmother is to my knowledge anyway, and especially in Australia or country too, I believe, it's the grandmothers who are stepping up and taking control more of what's happening, how their communities are working, and in a sense they're becoming the elder. And that's part, I believe, is the rising of the feminine energy. And they're being respected, because unfortunately men in these groups, well, you know, alcohol and whatever else has become a surge in these communities. So it's the grannies that have stepped up and go, we've got to change it.
And to be conscious is our gift that we can bring to them, because you know, this is just being, the presence is so important. I saw that with my grandson when I just walked around with them. Everyone was trying to calm him down. They're all sitting and they're all just sitting. And I'm like, no, he needs to be walked and held. So I picked him up and walked him around. And then I started singing in his ear and he just calmed right down. And in 5 minutes he was asleep. And I'm like, wow, this feels pretty good to, you know, know what to do. It was like such an instinct. It was just so natural. I knew it. And I'm like, you know, and my kids are looking like, wow, that was pretty fast. You know, and my daughter had come to visit. She lives in Denver, and she said, well, Mom, it's nice that to see, you know, how well you and Dad have, you know, done with the baby. You know, Nathan is really calms with you and is very easy with you. And I was like, yeah, it feels really nice. It's so special to be able to be the grandmother now and to have that gift of being a grandmother. And yeah, so they talk about, you know, bringing the grandmothers together, how, like you're saying, making the impact on the world, because we do have the wisdom. And I think that people are starting to understand that, because look at how much the generations are working. Everyone's got to work now, and we've got to, someone's there, and like the grandmothers are available, because a lot of us, we're in situations where we do have some time. It's not like a ton because we're busy. We're more active than we used to be in the past. And like mothers would retire and then just sort of be there all the time. But yet we're very present. And when we're there, we're very present with it, and we're there, and we specifically are just there for the child. We're not distracted with the, the extras. Like, we brought food to my sons and just pre-made the food and just said, don't even worry about cooking. We'll bring it, relax. We're there for visiting and, being with Nathan and Yuga, and to walk and just walk with them. We talk, we're present. We're not watching TV. We're literally just present with each other, which is such a gift, and this is nice to see. That makes it so special. And this is the consciousness we have to be aware of,
Very much.
And yeah, so yeah, and they talk about, the critical fight against ageism. She's saying how the myth that we're useless has-beens. Well, no, you can see how much grandmothers can impact. And so many volunteer at hospitals holding the babies, even grandfathers and grandmothers, any
Right.
they can go in.
Yes. I forgot what I was going to say now. Oh, I know. It was about being the grandmother and being present. We get to meet a lot of people, and the grandma is basically looking after the children, her grandchildren, and it becomes a chore because, as you said, both parents have to work and things like that. And I feel the children, the grandkids are missing out because it is a chore, because it's part of, I'm just bringing up this child, which in a sense is perhaps how we brought up our children, because we were doing and just get on with life. But with you, as you're saying, if you can be conscious, you can be present with that grandchild. There's special times. You're not taking over the role of bringing the child up. You can
Exactly.
put a new dynamic into it and have that appreciation. I never had grandparents until I was 20. That's right.
Really?
Yeah. So, and that was only grandfather. So to me, I would always be looking at all these kids, and I'd go out with their grannies, we'd go to the movies and things like that. So I always had ad hoc grannies. So to me, as a child who didn't have grandparents, I felt it was very, very important for my son to be aware and have contact with his
that's great.
and his father's parents, type of thing. So it is such an intricate part of
It is
evolution of our soul and that consciousness.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, that makes so much sense. Yeah, totally. I agree with that.
As we were saying before,
go ahead.
How you would have brought up your children and how we would have brought up our children if we were more conscious. Oh, they might be different than they are now, but we still love them.
Right. Well, I was in this work when my kids were probably middle school ages. And so they were very willing to let me work on them and do healing work and things like that. But now as they've gotten older, it's so interesting to see how they've pulled away from it. They've been out in the world now. The world has changed. They're looking at mom a little like, who are you? What do you do? And they're like, okay, my daughter is more open, but my son, he's kind of like, I know underneath it all, he really has an interest, because I always used to say to him when he left for school, I'm putting the white light around you, Dave, and I do it now. And he just looks at me and he likes it. He gets like a little smirk because it reminds him of the young days, because he's 33 now and my daughter's 29. But they were really open. In fact, he was the first one who let me do a DNA activation on him, and he doesn't even remember this.
No.
But I said, who's going to let me do this? And I said, somebody in my family's going to let me do it. And he goes, okay, I'll let you, Mom. And he did. And it was beautiful. So I know he's been activated. And my daughter, I did the reconnection on. So they both had their activations, which was so powerful. So even though they're fighting it, I know that it's there, the connection is there for them. And as they have their child growing up, that connection is going to help them get more present with the child. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to come back. It's going to come back for them. And that's going to benefit my grandchild, which I really like.
I think with our children, my son will sometimes come out and say something. And I go, where did you get that from? But now you talk to my woohoo stuff, or there you go, like you said, and that's what they do. And because they're so tied up with living and being present in what they're doing, they don't have time to actually internally feel.
And this is so true.
And let go of the expectations or that outside world, which seeps in to their own world. So as a dad, what do you feel?
Well, actually, my young daughter, when she was 16, she used to sit in development circle with me, and she was brilliant. Then she found boys, life got in the way, and she's still got the basic things there, but she does look at me and say, well, what are you up to now, Dad? I sort of know what you're doing, but I don't want to know.
Yeah.
But she's got that
awareness. Yeah, you planted the seeds. See, we're planting the seeds. Yeah. We planted it in our children so that they have something to give to the next generation. And then we're there to nurture the next generation from the very beginning. We can start now with all this new stuff, which we're learning, which to be conscious, to bring them into, you can meditate. It's okay to feel the love in your heart. It's okay to send it out to other people, and look at the power you actually have to do that, to help people in different ways with sending love to them. Like, you know, through that meditation book, she shares so many things about how different levels, you start at one level and you move through first learning how to turn up the love in yourself, and then moving on to turning up, helping and sending out love to others that are needing a little bit of love. And then all about being able to connect to love at a distance with somebody and knowing that that love is still there. I mean, it's a great connection, and it's very, you know, understandable, very, you know, tactile, that they can understand that this is something that they can really grasp, and the peace it brings to kids is huge. And so I'm so excited to do this with Nathan, and he's so new, and we're both new, but you know, I'm so excited to bring this to him. And you know that this is our you know, commitment, and it's my commitment to him, and it's our kind of our responsibility if we choose to take it, you know. And you know, like we've all been through a course that we call leadership, that has, you know, helped us even see more about ourselves. We're constantly working to improve ourselves, and I think that is a benefit to everyone around us, all our kids and our grandkids, that we're constantly moving to improve our thinking and to shift out of old thinking and ways that we were brought up in.
Look at our belief systems.
Yeah. Look at what we look at. I mean, we're talking about so many different things. I mean, you know, you don't need what you used to think you needed in your life. Our beliefs are so different. We know there's a source, and to me, the source is love. And teaching the child that your love is that you are source, because we are. I mean, we know we're source, right? And I love what you said, Ray. We were talking about what christening meant. What did it mean to christen a child? You want to tell the audience what you said? It was a great revelation.
It's something I've been trying to find the true meaning of, the original intent. And I've been to various parts of the world, been to the River Jordan through a baptismal service there. And the words I was told then, it's the cleansing. And what has come to me recently is the original intent was John the Baptist, when he baptized Jesus. That was when it was a ceremony, but that was only part of a ceremony to cleanse the person. They were back then, they were always for adults, that cleanse the adult person of their false and limiting beliefs about themselves, so that they could be the true love that they are. And that was the original meaning. It's, in modern times, it's been changed, as lots of things have, but that was the original intent. And so it is, that part is as true today as it was then. Yeah.
Well, actually, both Janet and Ray, it was at the River Jordan where supposedly, because you go to a lot of places around the world, and they say, well, such and such happened there, and such happened there, and such there, and it's all the same thing. So you really don't know where you are. But this supposedly is where John the Baptist did do the christenings, and they I was oblivious. I was actually watching a chap being christening a young. They were Jewish Ethiopians. In the river, and I was just enthralled at watching that ceremony. And they came back and said, oh really, were you? So for me, it was interesting watching a sacred ceremony of intent and purposeful intent and their own beliefs at that time, to hear these two old ones who've both been christened. I assume you would have been christened before, and having another meaning and another feeling behind it in this, well, it is a sacred space.
Well, my reason for looking into it is because I've performed baby namings and christenings as a celebrant and also as a spiritualist minister. And this was the first time I could find out the real reason for it. Namings, baby namings, which I've done a lot of, I really recommend them because it is a welcoming of the baby into the family and into the community. And it's a time of celebration, a time of joy, and it doesn't limit the child to follow his or her own beliefs later in life. They've got that freedom from the beginning. So I do see a lot of advantages in baby namings, not necessarily the christening ones with some of that dogma that goes with it.
Right. That's a beautiful thought, because yes, I was reading about that too, that there's this woman that created the grandmother movement. She is creating ceremonies here in the States. She's in the New York area, which I'm in the Connecticut area of the US, East Coast. And she does those kind of ceremonies for kids who don't want to follow a formal religious practice. And I love what you said, because I would love that for Nathan. And I'm going to bring this up to my son, because we did do a naming for my daughter, and my son did have a religious, it wasn't actually religious because we didn't use a religious person in it, but we did sort of do the ceremony for him when he was born for the boy. But for the girl, there was a different thing. It was called the naming ceremony. And we did that when she was around 6 or 8 years old, and I'll never forget it. She was so excited about it. She was like, oh my gosh, people are all going to be looking at me. She's like, oh, I am so ready for this. And she was shy, and now she was like so ready to be, given this. And it was so fun to watch her. She sat in the chair, and, we did the ceremony, and there was a religious person there at that point, but it was still so beautifully done for her. It was all about her just stepping into who she was. And I could see the transformation of her, that she was finally noticed, that she wasn't in the shadow of her bigger brother, who was 4 years older, that she really was never in the shadow. But I think she felt it because he was so much older. And, it was beautiful. And it was like her blossoming. She just blossomed. And she is the most independent woman you've ever met. I mean, this girl knows her mind. She is strong-willed. And she's half my size. She's not her mom's size. My son isn't a tall guy. So, it's interesting. And she's a powerhouse. It's fun. It's fun to watch her. And my son, they both have stepped into who they are, and I'm proud of them, because they've become independent people, and they are totally self-reliant, which says we've done good when the kids go that way. And even though they've gone off and far, my daughter's in Denver, so it's across the other side of the US, so it's far. She doesn't have any children yet, and she's giving me the if I decide. And I'm like, it's your choice. It's not my choice. I had to wait. I waited. I was an older mom. I didn't start young because I needed to have my life. I wanted to enjoy my life. And I knew when I had children, I would be there for them. And that's exactly what happened. I was there. I was so ready. And I so enjoyed the process. I mean, it's not easy, but I loved it. I was ready. I wanted it.
As you are as the grandmother.
And as the grandmother, I am so happy now. I am so ready to be a grandmother, where I think and that it happened a little later is great, because I am so ready now. I really feel that role as I'm ready for the wisdom sharing with this child, and that I can be there as the conscious grandmother and showing them things that I can stand and say, this is important for you to know, and I can introduce this to you. It's always up to them if they're gonna be interested or not, of course, but you can lay the groundwork and then they take it from there, right?
Yep. I like what you said, is standing and being present before you actually go to the child.
Yes.
I love that. Janet's very kindly offering a free gift, and I'd like her to explain to you what it's about. And she's a pretty powerhouse lady, as you're guessing and gathering, and we know she is. So Janet, would you like to please explain to our guests, our viewers?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. Yes, I'm offering a 40-minute divine light activation session, and we can talk about, you do get an activation in it, and it's been gifted to me through Source that I can bring you an activation that's going to help you step into owning your divine light, which is all about opening you up to more of your spiritual pathway, and to bringing more that you want to know about your true self. So it just opens the doors even more for you, and we can talk about whatever you need to talk about. It's a open session, free session. So please, I have the link is on the email that Vicki and Ray will be sending out, and you just click on that and book a time with me, and we can have this wonderful chat together and help you move forward on your divine pathway, because that's what it's all about, to move into who you truly are, and to bring our light out into the world, and who that light is important. Everybody's light is important to bring to this world,
and especially nowadays. So Janet, we'd love to thank you for agreeing to be this conscious grandmother on a level that you perhaps didn't realize at the time when you agreed. You did. And sharing what you said, because as you said, it's not a subject that's talked about. We have lots of mum groups and perhaps dad groups and things like that, but not the grandparent groups. And it's just as important for granddad as well as grandmother. So we thank you very much. And
thank you. Yes, being wisdom keepers that we all are, we have to pass this on now, because we have learned a lot that we need to share and give it out to the world. So thank you too so much. Yes. Thank you again. And you're doing wonderful work in the world too, and all that you bring. It's just fabulous to see you.
That pleasure, and we love it. And that's the thing, to enjoy what you're doing.
Exactly.
It's not a chore. I used that chore the other day for something. I pulled myself up and thought, wow, if I'm thinking this is a chore, I've got to change. I've got to do something else. Because what else do you do? Even washing the dishes, if you be present washing the dishes, it's being present.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true. Yeah. When you're passionate and you just let that passion come through, everything is easier. It just flows.
It flows. It definitely does. So with that, Janet, we thank you. We also thank you for clicking that button and joining us. It's an honour and a pleasure to be here and sharing what our wonderful guests are imparting, their knowledge and their gifts, and just being who they are, as we wish that you are who you are, and the powerful being that you are. So we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Thank you once, Janet, and we shall talk to you again.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Namaste. Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now,
clicked off the recording.
Well, that recording button came on, didn't it? I didn't check. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, it's come on. Must be. Oh, where have you gone? Where are you, Janet?
She's left the meeting.
Oh. I didn't get that. I've got Janet's number. Ah, there you are.
I know I shut you off and I'm like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have done that. We should have talked because I didn't mean to be rude. I'm like, oh my gosh. I was just trying to end the meeting for you so you didn't get stuck with the recording.
I'm sitting here. Oh, we're recording now. Hold on.
Well, you can, down the bottom.